Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another Friday with Designers at Home. We're going to take a slight departure this week and go into a different area of design. We're going to go into the world of fashion. We're going to be talking with somebody who's very interesting, and I think you're going to enjoy him. A very dear friend of mine, Timothy Pope. So Timothy is a wardrobe consultant whose expertise is in couture and high jewelry. His company is Madison Avenue based, Timothy Lloyd Pope Consulting, and he founded the firm in 1994. He curates wardrobe, jewelry, and accessory collections that enhances his clients' lifestyle. So he's a native of California who migrated to New York and Paris and into the world of high fashion. So we'll talk to him a little bit about how that happened. And he has been the director of sales for some of the foremost fashion houses of our time, such as Chanel, J. Mendel, Carolyn Rome, and he was the national director of sales for Jeffrey Bean. His client list is private, but includes some of the most influential and successful people in America. I'm going to have Tim join us now. So let's see, he's going to be popping up any moment here. This always takes a few minutes. There you are.
Good morning.
Good morning, Timothy. How are you?
Good afternoon here.
Or good
And
afternoon.
Good evening to those
You're in New York and I'm in Los Angeles.
It's a worldwide hookup.
All right. Thank you for joining us today. I know everybody's excited about today's visit with you.
Oh, I can't imagine why, but that's very flattering.
Well, Tim and I have been friends for, I don't know, Tim, what, 25 years or so?
Actually, more than 30, but let's not talk about that.
Okay. Well, anyway, you look great for 30. Okay. Anyway, so over your career, I've seen you just become such an extraordinary talent. And I always wondered what, you grew up a young man in a small California town and you migrated to New York and into this world of high fashion. What was it that inspired you as a young man into this career?
Well, first, let me say thank you so much for inviting me. It's really an honor. And of course, I love any time that we get to spend moments together. And especially at this rather peculiar time in our lives, it's uplifting to see you, even through this little picture that we're having this conversation. So thank you. Interesting. It's so long ago. I mean, I think dinosaurs were roaming the earth, but I started my career in theater and dance, and had an injury and was kind of taken down for a good period of time. And while that happened, I needed to get work, and I started working in fashion, and which was an additional passion, and just very quickly realized that it was a world in which I felt extremely comfortable, and I was hungry for knowledge. So I took a deep dive into that world. Of course, these are the days of magazines and publications like W Magazine, Women's Wear Daily, and all the great European magazines, L'Officiel, Vogue Paris, et cetera, et cetera. And I felt all of those images transported me to a world that was not only beautiful, but exciting and intellectually stimulating. So I found myself moving out of the world of theater and into the world of fashion, and quickly moved to San Francisco and started my career.
Well, that's great. It's great to see how far you've come, Tim. So I know you said that
in miles alone, yes.
Yeah, I know you said Robin, your partner, helped you set up your business initially, and it was based somewhat on the same as an interior design program.
Precisely. Shall we talk about that?
Sure.
Okay.
So tell us a little bit, in explaining this, tell us a little bit about how you charge and what kind of services do you provide?
Well, a little background is that after working for several designers of note and running their businesses, building their businesses, I realized that I really found the clients more interesting than the designers. And there seemed to be a precipitous lack of common sense when they were approaching their businesses. And I had this marvelous group of people that I was working with, mostly people in business, Wall Street, banking, law, etc., who were the people who not only had the resources, but the need to present themselves in a very polished way. So that began to present an idea to me, as my partner Robin is is also the partner in an international interior design firm. We began to talk about this, and he said, I don't understand why you're not working for the client instead of the designer. You really represent them to the designer, and that's where you're creating all your success. So why not do it officially? Concurrently, my clients came back to me and said, why aren't you doing this officially? You don't need to be stuck in one place. So this idea began to evolve because it was more than just, wear the red shoes with the blue dress, or you need a new tuxedo, sir. It was, I think you're maybe focusing your energy for your jewelry collection in the wrong way. Let's just take a look at this. It seems like it's more appropriate for you, your lifestyle, your desires, and I think that you'll receive more value for it. So that was sort of the evolution of how we started this. So Robin quickly came up with the idea that if we created a consultancy where we had the clients hire us on a retainer basis and set it up much more like an interior designer working with the clients, that would be a way to really get their commitment, the client's commitment for a year, and if it would work, they would take it forward. Now, the idea behind that was simply that my view of human nature is if you join a gym, you'll probably go. If you join a gym and hire a trainer, you're going to go because someone else is involved. So I wanted that commitment from them so that we could really get involved in how this part of their life could be improved and they would receive more value for their investment, and how it would bring them basically a new perspective of themselves and how they were going out into the world.
So Tim, let's talk about why it's important to make a daily effort to dress yourself thoughtfully and how you present yourself. I know one of the things you always say, and I think it's great, is that clothes are your calling card and it sends a message. So let's talk about that, because I think it's very important.
Well, especially now, we're living in this cloistered, most of us are living in a rather cloistered environment. I mean, we move around, if we're lucky enough to have a pod of people that we trust, we basically see the same people all the time, and then we're working this way remotely. However, the most important person to telegraph a message to is yourself. When you're dressed properly or appropriately for an occasion, and or not for an occasion, just if the occasion is it's Friday and let's lift myself up, you feel differently. When you're not thinking about how you're presenting yourself, you know that you've put your best effort forward for whatever that situation is. You behave differently. I use the example of black tie. If you attend an event where people are dressed in formal attire, they behave differently. Now, eventually, with enough spirits, things get a little more relaxed. But initially, there's a sort of ritual to it. And I think we have to be very careful to maintain those rituals in our day-to-day life because they lift us up. So I don't mean to be overly analytical about it.
No, I think it's a very good point. There's nothing when you're dressed properly, when you're groomed properly, when you have a great haircut, and you feel on top of the world. You feel it's confidence, I think, probably more than anything. There are days you'll put something on and go, "This is not me," or "This isn't working," and you'll change your wardrobe.
Right.
But it's very, very important, and we all know what it's like when we're having, quote, a good hair day, and you look good. People compliment you, so it has a very strong effect on how we not only look but how we perform.
Well, the best part, of course, the best part of that is that you stop thinking about, oh, I should have, or I feel underdressed or
Mm-hmm.
overdressed, and I think to your genius when you have people into what you do for your clients is that you give them a perfect reflection of themselves, so that when people walk into their homes, the hosts are extremely comfortable, and if you've done it, house proud, and the guests are comfortable because of this world of elegance and refinement that you've brought them into. The same thing is true of how we present ourselves, and that applies to one's clothing, grooming, the jewelry choices, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, that's a great analogy. I think that's important. Yeah. So we also need to think about what is the appropriate way to dress. Dressing appropriately for your silhouette, your age, and the lifestyle. So I think we've all seen people, and you'll go out one morning and think, "Oh my God, did that person look at the mirror before, they walked out the door?" So, and I've done that a
I
couple of
try not to
times
look.
with myself, where I thought, "I can't believe I put this together." But it's very appropriate, I think, that people are aware of dressing for the occasion and for their age and body type. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Well, I have an expression, RSD, reflective surface deprived. So I often feel that when I'm perhaps walking to my office and I pass a window and look in the window, think, just turn around and go back home, because that's the tailoring isn't right, or I look like a dirigible, or it's too young, or too whatever it is. And it has occurred that I turn around and say, all right, this is not only is it going off my body, but it's going on to another life elsewhere. It's very, very important for people to understand, because if you're just like when you're furnishing a home or designing a garden, when you're designing a wardrobe as opposed to buying clothes, which is a different thing, if you're creating a wardrobe, it's the exact same principle as if you're designing a home. It takes rigor, it takes knowledge, it takes resources, and typically a fair amount of resources, but in the end, you'll receive value for your investment, because you've thought it through. We have so much available to us. There is, endless choices, as I always say, 1,000 choices, 2 of them are right.
Right.
The question is,
And
how
it's
do you
knowing what
define
the
what
right
is
thing
right?
is.
And, right. And oftentimes, I think when we look in the mirror, we bring a historical perspective to it. We don't always see ourselves. And it's very important to find a trusted advisor, whether it be your husband or your wife or the lady next door or your inner voice, or if you're smart enough to hire an advisor, someone who has your best interest at heart and has an objective point of view. An example is this. Someone goes out and creates a huge fortune. They have a lot of success. So the gentleman says, oh, I want to thrill my wife with a perfect present. I want to show her how much I love her. So he goes into a jewelry store and he buys her a tiara. Like big, fancy, lots of diamonds. Or let's say more realistic. Let's say a big, fancy parure of diamonds, a giant necklace, a chandelier. There's only one problem. They hate black tie events. They never go out. They entertain at home. And her favorite thing to do is gardening. So my view is this: take those resources, buy beautiful things that bring value to you, that give you enormous pleasure, spend the same amount of money, but take the time to learn what is appropriate. If you don't go to big charity events, you don't need, the chandelier of jewels, but to have a fabulous strand of pearls, a beautiful ring that you can wear every day, or earrings that make you feel like a queen when you go to a restaurant for dinner. Those are the areas to go into. Or if you talk about fashion, it's the same thing. People walk through the store and they see a fabulous dress or a suit, or a gentleman walks in and sees a leather jacket that looks great, makes them feel young again, puts it on, and there's only one problem. It's completely wrong for his lifestyle. It then hangs in the closet and creates sort of a sore spot, right? You think, right, I went out and spent all of that money, and this has nothing to do with my life.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to, if you work with someone, I think we typically tend to take impulse out of the equation.
Right. Well, that's important.
Just like for you.
Right. So Tim, I think one of the most exciting things about fashion is the world of haute couture. So can we jump into that for a moment? It's a world that you introduced me to, and I have to say that one of the most thrilling experiences I've ever had, and I don't remember how long ago this was my first couture show in Paris, and it was at the Paris Opera House. I think it was a Dior show. And it's you're not just going to a fashion show. It is one of the most extraordinary experiences. It's living art, it's theater, it's so extraordinary. So can we discuss this a little bit? Because I know it's a passion of yours.
Twist my arm.
Yeah, okay.
Being a middle-class boy, I always like the idea of value. And what I learned early on dealing with clients with great resources is that there's just an enormous amount of waste that takes place, sort of mistake purchasing. And I kept thinking about that as I grew through my career. And I was studying this world of couture, and I became absolutely entranced with the idea that it is about customizing the designer aesthetic, whomever that designer is, to the client's needs. So in other words, the house, the atelier, and the designer are creating the perfect wardrobe for that client, as opposed to buying even very expensive ready to wear and retrofitting it to your needs. So if you use the example of Bunny Mellon, now I know this is a person of enormous wealth, but one of the things that I think the luxuries of haute couture is that it affords clients more time ultimately. When you have a wardrobe of haute couture, it's not about the runway. It's not about what you see. It's not about wearing a price tag. It's about wearing things that, as I mentioned before, are refined to your needs, silhouette, lifestyle, passions. So I bring up Bunny Mellon because she, of course, had her form was at the Maison Givenchy. And every season, at the beginning of the season, she would call Hubert and say to him, I need 2 new garden coats. I need 3 new dresses, 3 new coats, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Those things, at that point, they had her measurements down so perfectly that they would simply make the clothes and deliver them. Now, that's a very rare thing. It usually takes a long time to create that relationship with a house. Uh-huh. And I must say we move more quickly now. But that idea of going to that Dior show, which was extraordinarily extravagant. I mean, people in, room width gowns and crazy stuff, right? But it was all to inspire and to go there and be able to say, which most people don't understand, the jacket that's over that costume is what I love. So now we're going to take that jacket and we're going to create a pantsuit or a jacket and a skirt or a dress, because that's how I will be able to realize value for my investment. That is what is appropriate to my life. The relationship that's developed between the house and the client is so intimate that the house begins to understand who the client is and then excite them by presenting the right or a new and novel but perfectly suited option for them. Mm-hmm. So it's the ultimate. I become so passionate. I'm sure I'm not being clear, but it's everything that people don't think it is. It's the opposite of what people think it is. It's not about swanning into a big party wearing a ridiculous dress that everyone turns around and looks at and says, oh, that's this designer or that designer, Chanel or Dior or Schiaparelli or Gautier or whomever. It's about walking in and people looking at you and being drawn to you, about creating a kind of magnetism because you are so perfectly framed.
That's one of the things that I think is why you're so great at what you do, because I know several of the people that you work with regard to their wardrobes. And I see how people react when they attend an event, a dinner, walk into the room, whether it's a casual event or whether it's a formal event, it doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter whether somebody has spent a great deal of money on this outfit or very little money, but they always make a statement. They look impeccable. It says so much about you. It's such a powerful statement. I lecture at UCLA, and the students are always asking me questions about how to get started and so forth. And one of the most frequently asked questions is, what is the best way? How do I present myself when I'm interviewing for a job? And I said, unfortunately, the moment you walked in the door, they've already made a judgment on who you are, and along with other things. So your appearance is very important because it's the first thing that we see. So how you're groomed, how you're dressed is a very, very strong and powerful statement.
Of course. Well,
so and your clients, and we have mutual friends who it makes me want to better myself, because when I see how beautifully put together they are, how thoughtfully put together, and it's really art. Knowing how to do this properly is really an art. It's an incredible talent. I do it with interiors. You do it with clothing and fashion. And it's something that everybody is capable of doing. They just need to learn how to do it or have the right people in their life to take them on the journey.
Well, of course, and elements of that are at different levels for various people, but we can all use help. We can all use help in refining our lives, and it makes it actually. I oftentimes say, most of my clients, the one thing that they cannot buy is more time. Hopefully, what I afford them is more time, because they're not worrying about what am I going to wear, all of those sorts of things, and how am I going to present myself for this event, this speech, this business meeting, et cetera, et cetera. They have a perfect wardrobe, and whether it's from 10 years ago or from 2 weeks ago, it will be ready for them, perfectly tailored, organized, and so that they're not spending time worrying about what they're projecting. One of my clients, who was one of the early and a very, very successful on Wall Street, used to refer to me as her secret weapon. She said, I walk into those boardrooms filled with men, and she said, they look me up and down. Now, they don't know what they're looking at, but they know it's right. And from there on out, about 70% of my job's done. So, especially in a job interview situation, as your students have asked you, 95% of the time, the people who they're interviewing with will have read their resumes, they will have done their homework, they will have Googled them and schmoogled them and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The last thing they need to do is verify, does this person make me feel like they are valid? What message are they telegraphing to me? Are they confident? Are they well-spoken? Are they well-presented? It has very little to do with what they're wearing, but how they're wearing it.
How they're wearing it, yes.
And people forget how important tailoring is. I mean, simply having your sleeves hemmed to the appropriate length so they're not, down over your knuckles, so that it doesn't look as though you're wearing someone else's clothes. I mean, there are very, very subtle things. I mean, people say to me all the time, you always look as though you stepped out of a bandbox. You're just flawless. Well, honestly, I don't even think about it. I spend 5 minutes getting dressed because I have a wardrobe that is designed so that I know what I'm doing and I say, this is the right thing for that. And I go and pull it out. But it's not like a vain obsession. It really is a way to refine your life and allow you to go through life projecting who you are.
Right.
For instance, our shared client and best friend, if we're to be honest, has a way of walking into a room and everybody turns to her warmly. Now, we know that certain women walk into a room and people turn to them and, let's just say, especially other women, warmth is not the first thing in their mind. But this person, first of all, is so beautiful on the inside that the whole package is so magnetic, so alluring, that she draws people to her. And actually, our dear friend is, I think, intrinsically rather shy.
Mm-hmm.
But when she walks into a room, she's like a flower that's opening.
Yeah.
And everyone is drawn to her. And I must say that I think for both of us, the experience of working with them for this client and her husband for all these years has afforded us a great prism on that world and has really helped to refine how I go about what I do when I'm given the privilege of doing that for someone. I think it's true for you too. We have these relationships with people that have gone on for 20 or 30 plus years. I mean, I'm now
right, because your clients have been with you for many, many years.
Correct.
And that says a lot about you too, and about what you do and the service that you provide. Because if they didn't feel it was that important, if they didn't feel good about yourself, they wouldn't still be working with you.
Well, it's really a collaboration, and I think that people mistake looking at it, especially in the female world. They look at this and say, well, why would anybody need help with their clothes? Or why don't they do their house themselves? Again, it's about objectivity, having a second perspective, and it's always better. You always get a better result with two heads, right? Two minds. So it's first of all, I think both of us are successful because we're having fun. Right. We're just having a great time.
Yeah.
And we're doing what we love, and we're doing it with people that we love. So we are both very privileged to be able to say that. But I also know that if one, going back to your students, if one does what they're passionate about, and I have great belief in this, as you do, the old adage is true. You're always successful. Right.
So, Tim, how do you think your clients have changed your life? I know that both of us are always striving to bring out the best for our clients, to introduce them to something that's unique and special. What have they done for you?
I think that the idea of, as I said earlier that I think the art of collaboration, and also one of the things that we don't talk about, you and I, but perhaps we should. This is a good moment to do so. I think that we've both worked very, very hard to, or diligently, let me say that, diligently to create these. Look, the greatest luxury in anything, including in haute couture, what makes the difference? The relationship. What makes the difference for you with your clients? The relationship. What makes the difference for me with my clients? The relationship. My clients, while they are extremely important to me in a professional sense, they have also now become extended family.
Yes.
And maintaining a work friendship, right? That's something that this has taught me, and it's an exercise in respect and understanding and sometimes boundaries. It's been a really interesting development, and I think that I don't know about you, I would assume this is true, but I'm far less judgmental.
I think we froze up for a moment. I don't know if everybody, oh, there we go. It froze up for a moment.
Are we lit?
Yeah. Well, anyway, Timothy, there's so many more questions that I want to go over with you, and so many more things that I need your words of wisdom. But maybe if you're interested, at some point we can have another chat, and we can. There's a number of questions that are going across the screen, people that are watching, and it's very interesting. So there's a lot of things I'd like to talk to you about, and if you're willing, I'd love to have another session with you. And
I'm so curious. Give me an example of one question.
Well, I think one statement that just came up, and I think it's great. Some lady said, "This is so empowering," and I think, I think that's what we're talking about, or what you're talking about, is it is empowering. When you look good, when you feel good about yourself, it is tremendously empowering. And people feed off that. People recognize it. And that's what you do.
Well, and what you do, but it's a great, I sound like I'm pandering, but in all honesty, our clients are people who are doing quietly, discreetly, who are doing truly great things in this world and showing much needed leadership quietly, elegantly. I've always given myself a little lift that I probably don't deserve, but saying if I can assist them in achieving their goals, I am in some way helping on that level as well. And I'm talking about people who build schools and feed thousands. And I mean, the philanthropy in this country is unlike any other, and it goes on very, very discreetly and quietly and off the radar. And those people are going out into the world our clients are going out into the world to facilitate those philanthropies moving forward. And my view is, when they walk into that room, if they don't have to think about this, right? If all they have to think about is, how are we going to get this accomplished? Then I'm helping them. And that's what my goal is. The same as if, they come home at night and they feel completely satisfied to be in this beautiful space that you've created for them.
Well, I think you have been successful in getting the message across, because we just had 2 messages that said, "I want to go home and change my clothes immediately." So I think you have inspired some people. Anyway,
one of my favorite mottos is, get up, dress up, and show up, right? So it's much better to be overdressed than underdressed. At the end of the day, the person who will feel better about it is you. Right. So that's really the whole point. Also, just showing the respect to the people that you see. You're telegraphing a message to people that I appreciate you being here, or you're going to the opera and being dressed, or the theater. You're saying, I appreciate to the performers. I really appreciate that you've dedicated your life to this. It sends a message of respect for whomever you encounter.
Great. It does.
Blah, blah,
Thank you
blah.
so much, Tim. Yeah, well, we could
Thanks.
go on, but thank you
We
so
could.
much. It's great.
It
You
was
know,
a
we don't
pleasure.
have enough time to spend socially together. You're in New York and I'm in Los Angeles, but this was great. Thank you for taking the time, and it's great to visit with you, Tim.
Actually, can't wait to see you next week.
Yes.
Great.
Look forward
Thank
to
you
it.
so much, Mark. It was really a pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, I hope everyone today. So about 3 or 4 weeks ago,